Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, broadcasting on Channels Television, live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. The federal government removes Comptroller General of Immigrations, David Paradang. The People's Democratic Party says it has begun reconciling members and that a new chapter would soon begin. WAEC to continue handwritten examination, puts computer-based exams on hold for now. And hundreds of migrants rush to Macedonian border in an attempt to enter the country from Greece. A reminder here that all our top stories can be found on our website, channelstv.com, and on youtube.com/channels, where you can watch our videos. Do log on to m.channelstv.com to view us live on a mobile device. You can also download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS, and Windows phones from their respective stores. We also urge you to please interact with the Channels Eyewitness feature in the Channels TV app on the Android, iOS, and Windows platforms. If you have pictures or videos you'd like to share with us, tap the application on your device, swipe to reveal the Eyewitness menu, and follow the instructions. The 435 employees of the Rivers State Polytechnic, now Kent Saro-Wiwa Polytechnic, that were sacked by the Rivers State government on assumption of the current administration have taken their cry to the Institute of Human Rights and Humanitarian Law in Port Harcourt. Some leaders of the group told Channels Television that, contrary to earlier reports, said their appointment was hurriedly done at the twilight of the previous administration. The process of the employment started in 2013, and they threatened to draw the government to the National Industrial Court through the Institute of Human Rights and Humanitarian Law. The government, however, maintains that the process of their employment was flawed.
This is a gathering of disengaged workers of the Rivers State Polytechnic Bori at the Institute of Human Rights and Humanitarian Law in Port Harcourt. With sad looks on their faces, some resort to prayer as they demand for justice over what they call their reckless sack by the Rivers State government without due process.
This cause will not be won in vain.
Some say it's now a desperate situation.
We cannot afford to be thrown into the labor market in this unrighteous economy of ours. In this era that the unemployed is becoming an increasing army with each passing day.
This is not a political environment. No matter your feelings, affiliations, or whatever, what is important here is that you are citizens of this country, duly employed, and you must not be sacked anyhow.
And they take their protest outside. These people say this is not the best of time for them and are calling on the Rivers State government to take a second look at their disengagements from their jobs. Spokesman of the Rivers State government, however, insists that the process of employment of the sacked workers was flawed by irregularities.
One was accusing the other one. You didn't tell me, this was not what you told me. You told me these people were appointed some years, this was said, no, I told you they were appointed, which means even the date of the appointment, you can see that there is something sinister about it. The two principal officers cannot agree on when the so-called workers or teachers or lecturers were appointed and how they were appointed. They could not even agree. There was no consensus on that.
As these embattled sacked workers of the Rivers State Polytechnic continue to demand for their jobs back, it is hoped that their plight will be looked into by government. Emmanuel Ere, Channels Television News.
The Non-Academic Staff Union of Education and Associated Institutions, NASU, branch of the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research, has threatened to go on an indefinite strike action if all welfare and promotion issues are not resolved by the management of the research institution. This threat follows a 3-day warning strike by the union between August 17th to 19th, 2015. But the management of the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research has described the threat and a 3-day warning strike as ill-motivated because there have been a series of meetings with the EXCO of the union where management informed and educated the union on the true position regarding their demands.
The serene atmosphere here at the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research, Yaba, Lagos, belies the disharmony between its management and the non-academic staff union of the institute. The union members are aggrieved over a couple of issues.
The issues are, one, non-payment of a shortfall balance 2013. That shortfall balance was the money that was supposed to be given to us as allowance before we started the IPPIS, which started 2014. The money that was supposed to be used, they could only pay 3 months and 7 days, while the rest was used to pay staff that were employed in that month of October. Arrears for 2012, 2013 is not paid because, one, the promotion exercise were not conducted as and when due.
2014,
The management of NIMA, on the other hand, says it has nothing to hide as issues concerning the 2013 salary shortfall are verifiable from the Budget Office and that of the Accountant General of the Federation.
The Budget Office of the Federation has categorically stated that federal government does not owe NIMA any shortfall of salary for 2013, and therefore no other fund was received by the institute to this effect. However, if NASU thinks otherwise, I challenge them to show evidence that this money had come to NIMA and we refused to pay.
The Director General of the institute speaks more on other demands by the union.
The institute, like other MDAs, had presented and defended its manpower budget for 2015, but up to the moment, the Office of the Head of Service of the Federation has not released an approval letter for us to commence promotion. And it is clearly important to know that without the approval, this will not be backed by fund, by the Salaries and Wages Commission.
The management stressed that it's open to dialogue and expects understanding from all members of staff. However, the union says it's waiting for further directives from the national body of NASU.
The headquarters have written letter to them asking after this 3 days warning strike, choose a date so we can come and negotiate. But I don't know whether as I'm talking now they have responded to that. But if the period that they are expected to get response, they don't get it, then automatically that total strike will commence.
Any decision by both the management and members of NASU of the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research must be taken with consideration to the people and patients seeking medical services at the institute. Yomi Otaigbe, reporting for Channels Television News.
Staying with workers' unionism, with the tenure of the Nigeria Labour Congress leadership headed by former President Abdul Wahid Omar coming to an end, the union remains divided. The NLC has since made 2 unsuccessful attempts at organizing elections to choose its leaders, resulting in the emergence of 2 camps. The last poll took place on March 14th with Mr. Joe Ajero of Nigeria Union of Electricity Employees and Mr. Aliu Waba of Medical and Health Workers Union contesting the post of president. Results announced had Comrade Waba declared winner of the NLC presidential election, but the claim was hotly disputed by supporters of Mr. Ajero that the Mr. Ajero camp alleged that the entire process was not transparent and therefore rejected the outcome. The disputed poll itself was a rescheduled election held after the previous one at the end of the National Delegates Conference between February 8th and 11th, 2015 that ended the fiasco. At the end of the event, supporters of some aggrieved contestants suddenly turned violent, hijacking and destroying ballot boxes while voting was going on. The latest efforts at reconciling the 2 factions was brokered by Edo State's Governor Adams Oshomole just yesterday in Abuja. The governor, a former president of the NLC, announced that both factions have agreed to work together with a 7-member committee created to ensure that the body is run on the basis of inclusion. But the Ajero Group has again clarified its position that the agreement did not include acceptance of a consensus president. Now, one of those at that meeting is Mr. Issa Aremu, the Deputy National President of the Nigeria Labour Congress, who joins me now on the News at 10. Mr. Aremu, thank you for joining us on the program.
Well, thank you so much. And I want to say it's nice to be here.
Yeah, I know you've had a long day. You just said you were coming in from Kaduna, so thanks for joining us on the News at 10. We do appreciate your being here. Now, do you have a resolution to the rifts now? Any consensus president?
Well, I think it's not so much about consensus leadership, but more about shared responsibilities. And I think, let me use the opportunity to formally thank our veterans, who provided the platform for the reconciliation. And in particular, the comrade governor of Edo State, who brought the two sides of the same coin, because we're all the same together. And I think the most significant aspect of this reconciliation is that we've come together to work for the United Nigeria Labour Congress. And let me thank both formally Ayuba Wamba as well as Comrade Jero, for offering the leadership for us to be able to sit together and talk. And I think we reached a number of issues that are very good for all of us. First, we learned the need for us to not repeat the mistake of the past. We have to respect our rules, constitutional rules. We need to uphold the core values of the labor movement, the basic ethics. We also agree that we must work together. As you said, it has been announced that there will be a 7-person committee of 7 comrade committee, if you put it that way, headed by the first president of NSC, Alhaji Hassan Sumano, so that we promote inclusiveness, because there is enough job for all of us.
But did you discuss the consensus president?
No, I think let me put it this way: that don't forget the NSC is made up of industrial unions, and we have 43 industrial unions. I mean, we are presidents in our own right. I'm a general secretary of a union. Comrade Achize is also president of his union, so we are not short of presidents. I think what is important is that the outcome of this discussion is that we must work together, to move ahead, and then close the chapter of the crisis arising from 11th Delegate Conference. We've also agreed that it's important as much as possible that we don't engage in unnecessary litigations, and that the cases in court must also be withdrawn.
I'm going to pick up on something you said about following the Constitution. Was anything unconstitutional done during the election?
No, I mean, you know what triggered the crisis was that fundamentally we are the credential committees that already closed nominations, in line with our Constitution. Don't forget, this is the 11th Delegate Conference. We've done 10 conferences before. I mean, what were we doing before that we didn't have crisis? The only thing we didn't do at this conference was that, we did not, keep to the spirit of our Constitution. And Comrade Downs was very emphatic about that. I mean, all the veterans say that we must obey our rules, I mean, because we're like people who ask for equity in larger society. We must come with clean hands, and everybody agreed that. Far from that, I mean, that delegate conference had some flaws, which we must improve upon. And for me, that is far more significant. And I think the spirit, you can see very well, I don't know whether you are at the table, but China was there. The spirit was that we now work together, and there is enough for all of us to do. What I'm saying, I'm raising this point because in the media, we over-dramatize the issue of leadership. It's important, there's no doubt about that. But much more important is the responsibilities. As I'm talking to you, many workers have not been paid in some states. I think we should be united to pursue the cause of the working people. Okay. And we have agreed we work together to achieve that.
I think the rest of Nigeria would actually be happy if the NLC was just speaking with one voice. So we're wondering now, what are the issues of contention here for the NLC? Why is it so difficult to have one leadership? Is there some juicy package somewhere that's dividing the NLC?
No, there's not. In fact, that's the challenge that is beyond us. Whoever wants to lead the Congress knows that there's a lot to be done. It's not about what's busy. I've told you the NSC.
So what are the issues of contention?
No, now about the leadership issue, I think we've resolved, and there's no doubt about that. The issue is to work out the details. We've resolved that we are going to work together and abide by the outcome of the agreement that we've reached. And I've no doubt in my mind, you are going to see it, the inclusiveness even of the committee is clear. It's made up of all the two sides of the same coin. I don't want to call it factions. I mean, part of our job is about contestation, you know, and at times we have disagreements. You know, it's fortunate that this gets out of hand, but we have returned back to our internal mechanism. And significantly, and I think that should be amplified, we have said that unconditionally, we should withdraw the cases in court, you know. And I think when that is done, actually to be done, I have no doubt that you are going to have a formidable one voice for the Nigeria Labour Congress, which you already...
Your response about the resolutions that were finally agreed on, is this in reaction to the Ajero faction, what they said after Governor Adams Oshomole read out that communique at the end of the meeting?
No, I don't think you should be talking of factions again, you know, because even in our statement, Comrade Oshomole emphasized that, you know, it's two sides of the same comrade coin. I think you have to emphasize that. Of course, you know, in any dispute, there will be one or two people who have their own opinion, but in the trade union movement, what matters is the collective, and the collective decision overrides individual preferences. So I don't think we need to be taken aback. It also shows our democratic culture. People can express their views, but above all, the consensus we have reached remains very binding. And I think you will see some of the actions very soon that we are united more than ever before.
And I'm sure you're also thinking about the future of the NLC, of course, with the privatization and economic reforms of the government. Many companies will be privatized. What does the future of the NLC look like? Well,
precisely. That's the point you are raising. There are more things that unite all of us, you know. I mean, I've just listened to your story. There are a lot of industrial arrests over non-payment of entitlements. Industries have closed down. We need to refix them. So there are more things that unite us than dividing us. And in this struggle to protect the working people, there's enough job for all of us to do. I have no doubt over that. So I think we are going to rise, and we are moving on now to resume back to our primary duty. The government has launched the fight against corruption. We must also join it fully. The need to revive the industry, we must join that campaign. The need to make sure there's probity at all work for. I mean, President Buhari just warned against extorting money from applicants. You know the story. Many applicants have died. Again, that's the job of trade union movement. And I think those are the areas that we'll be talking about. I think the emphasis should be more shared responsibility rather than
and all of these plans that you have pointed out are really important, but they also need a leadership. So who is the president of the NLC?
I think, let me put it this way, that the details are already going to work out very soon. We have already gotten the 7-man committee, and I think it's important for me to emphasize what unites us more than ever before, you know. And I think you are also interested in the United Labour Movement. This committee that we have put in place will definitely, you know, you see very soon a lot of activities that will confirm that. Don't forget that the agreement we enter also based on the fact that we must withdraw litigations in court unconditionally. And I think once you get that one done, you'll be clear who are the leaders of the Nigeria Labour Congress. But let me end on this note to say that I've told you NSC is made up of 43 industrial unions, president and general secretaries. So we are not short of leaders at a different level. I'm the general secretary of Textile Workers Union. You know, and we are not short of what we are doing, but what is important is that NSA aggregates our collective wish. And very soon you to be clear for you how united we are.
We're all hoping, you know, for a more united NLC. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Mr. Issa Aremu. He's the National Deputy President of the Nigeria Labour Congress. And when the news at 10 returns, the deregulation of the petroleum industry, that will be on Business News. Please join us again.